Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Breath of Hope, Chapter 5, Recovering, Part 1. Okay, for those of you who have not yet seen the first few videos for Breath of Hope, I suggest you go view those now, as this is a continuation of that story. Waking up the next morning, Callum found himself tangled in a mess of blankets. He struggled to get free from them before finding Ezran beside him, drooling on top of Bates' head. The glowtoad just accepted his fate. Rayla, meanwhile, was sitting in the windowsill, her head lowered as she dozed. But upon hearing him, she woke up. "Oh, hey, sleep well?" "Yes, thank you, Rayla." "Well, you hungry? There's plenty of food downstairs." He thought about the question, then shook his head. "No, I'm fine." Guessing he was so used to being starved, the dragon could go a while without food. So Rayla stood up and held out her hand. "Come with me. Let's go for a walk outside." "A walk?" "It'll do you some good. Get your legs moving more." Looking at his legs, the dragon stood and followed her, holding her hand as he wobbled. But eventually he made his way downstairs and out the front door. Staying close, the assassin smiled softly at him. "You want to talk about last night?" He looked at her, then shook his head. "No." "Callum, I don't want to talk about it, Rayla," he snapped, pulling his hand away and turning his back to her. The elf held her hands in surrender. "Okay, all right. If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to." He glanced back, then nodded, head lowered as he gave her his hand and continued to walk. They paused when he needed a break, but Rayla was impressed he made it all the way around the building without collapsing. As they got back to the front door, they were greeted by Ezran, who smiled sheepishly. "Hey guys, where'd you go?" "For a walk around the lodge. Thought it would do Callum some good." "Cool. Who wants some breakfast?" "We're all right, Ez. You go ahead." Callum smiled as he headed inside, then looked at Rayla standing in the doorway. "You coming?" "I'm going to check the area and make sure no one's come close during the night." He pouted at her. "But you said you'd stay here." "And I will. I just need to make sure we're still safe. If any humans find out there's an elf and a dragon in the lodge with the human prince, we'll be in big trouble." "But..." "I'll be back before you know it, Callum. Just go explore the lodge for a while, okay?" Looking downward, he nodded. "All right," he sighed. "I'll only be a few minutes." She turned and hurried away towards the trees. Once she was gone, Callum sank where he stood, headed and headed inside. He could hear Ezran and Bate down in the kitchen, but he didn't feel like joining them, so headed to explore the other rooms. Ezran had shown and told him that each room was for when they arrived, but he hadn't had a chance to really explore them. He poked his head through every door he came across until he found one room that had gotten his attention before. A room Ezran called the study. It was one of the smaller rooms in the lodge, with a desk similar to the one he'd seen outside his cell. But this one was cleaner and made of a lighter wood. He prodded each thing to see if it moved, made a sound, or did something, wondering how it felt. Something that caught his attention was a strange brown thing on the side of the room, away from everything else, left alone. It had a brown top and bottom, gold lines crossing over it, and layers of strange material filling the inside. He poked it, but it didn't move or make a sound. He slowly picked it up and turned it over, feeling how heavy it was and admiring the texture. He smiled as he sat down and placed it on his lap, messing with it and trying to see if it did anything. "I'm back," called a female voice from the other side of the lodge. "Hey, Rayla, look what I found." The chestnut-haired prince ran to find her, his tail wagging back and forth in excitement. Glad to see him happy again, the elf nodded. "What you got?" "Look," he chuckled, holding his hands out and presenting it to her. "Isn't it cool?" "A book? Yeah, they're all right." "A book? Is that what it's called?" "I just think it looks cool." His innocence and confusion were both heartwarming and saddening at the same time to the elf. She looked at him, then reached out and held the book in his hands, opening it up for him. "Ah, it's blank," she observed. "Books normally have words or drawings in them, but this one's blank. Must be a journal or a sketchbook." "So, what do you do with it?" She looked over the book before noticing a slot in the back. Fiddling with it, a thin pencil came out. "Here we go. This is the pencil. You use it to draw and write with, see?" She explained, placing the tip on the page and drawing a quick line to show how it worked. Callum's eyes went wide as she passed him the stick. He took it and spared a moment to work out how to grasp it. But eventually he got hold and drew a line alongside Rayla's. "Whoa," he exclaimed in awe, then drew another and another, trying different ways to create shapes. He laughed like a madman, then ran out of the room with his book and pencil, shouting out for Ezran as he went. Rayla chuckled as she watched him go, glad to see something that had made him happy. "Hey, Ez, look what Rayla just showed me. It's called a book, and this is the pencil." "Cool, Callum. It must be one of Dad's journals." Ezran looked at it a while, sitting at the table with his jelly tart. "He has loads of them, always writing things down." Thinking and clutching the book tight, Callum looked at his human friend. You mean I can't keep it?" "Of course you can. I'm sure Dad won't mind. He has loads of them. He won't miss one." Smiling, the smile returned, and Callum sat where he was, opening the book and placing it on the table. He continued to mess around with the pencil and experiment. Meanwhile, Rayla watched the pair with a small smile, but then felt her ribbon grip a bit tighter, and she turned away to hide her pain from them. After it calmed down, she left the room and went off to find somewhere to glare, curse, and try once more to get the darn thing off. She had no idea how it was made or what spell was keeping it in place, but she was determined to get it off without completing the assignment. Callum would never forgive her if anything happened to Ezran. "Oh, there you are, Rayla." She looked back and spotted the human. Hey, Ez. Hey, you've got to come and see what Callum's doing. It's amazing. Wondering what this amazing thing could be, she went back to the kitchen where she left the dragon and saw him sitting at the table with the pencil in hand. He was intensely doing something with that book. Ezran stood at his side and peered over his shoulder at the page. Whoa, that one's even better than the last. Rayla stood over the other side and peeked over as well, looking at the page he was working on. It was covered with flowers of various shapes and styles. Wow, Callum, those are incredible. Where did you see them? When I was coming here, he explained, leaning back as he finished one. Wait, you're drawing this from memory? He smiled and nodded. Yeah, Ez was saying that's hard. Very. It's a real skill, and you're good at it. I like doing this. It makes me feel calm. Well, if it makes you feel calm, keep going. He stared at her for a moment. Can I draw you? A blush quickly came to her cheeks at the idea. You want to draw me?